Russia is a country of contrasts, where the polished images of major cities often sharply differ from life in the provinces. While the center of Moscow shines with the lights of new buildings and shopping malls, thousands of kilometers from the capital there are settlements where people still live without basic amenities. Using outdoor toilets, carrying water from wells, and heating their homes with firewood because gas is not available everywhere, even though the country is considered one of the world's largest gas exporters. In many villages, roads are so damaged or simply unpaved that after rain they turn into endless mud, and a trip to a hospital or school becomes a real challenge. In winter, some settlements are effectively cut off from civilization because snow is cleared irregularly. Old wooden houses with crooked windows and rusty roofs stand next to abandoned factories, monuments to a past industrial era where thousands once worked, but now only a few guards and piles of scrap metal remain. Many young people try to leave for big cities because there are almost no jobs in small towns, wages are low, and food prices keep rising, so entire regions are gradually aging and becoming empty. People say that official news often shows parades, new projects, and loud statements but rarely talks about real problems. Unsafe schools, hospitals without modern equipment, shortages of doctors and teachers, and delayed salaries in the public sector. In some areas, central heating works unreliably, and in winter residents insulate their apartments with blankets and plastic on the windows to keep warm. Social inequality is noticeable. In the capital you can see expensive cars and restaurants, while in the regions people survive on minimal pensions, grow vegetables in small gardens, and save on the most basic necessities. State propaganda often talks about greatness and strength, but ordinary people worry more about the prices of bread, medicine, and fuel. Part of the budget is spent on military needs and security structures, which sparks debate among citizens because many believe that this money could go toward repairing roads, developing hospitals, and supporting the regions. Some families have lost loved ones because of the war or live with constant anxiety for those who serve. Economic sanctions and isolation affect businesses and ordinary workers, leading to company closures, rising unemployment, and fewer goods available. In small towns you can see long lines at social service offices, old buses breaking down in the middle of routes, and shops with limited assortments. People get used to surviving, repairing appliances themselves, exchanging items with neighbors, and helping one another because sometimes that is the only support they have. Despite the difficulties, there are also those trying to develop local initiatives, opening small cafes, farms, workshops, and organizing cultural events, but they face bureaucracy, inspections, and a lack of investment. Many provincial buildings look as if time stopped in the 1990s. Old elevators peeling entrances, pipes that burst every winter, and residents collecting money themselves for repairs. The internet and modern technologies do not reach everywhere, and where they do, access to independent information may be limited. In big cities, life is more modern. There are metros, new districts, and jobs in IT or services, but even there many people live paycheck to paycheck. Stories differ. Some are satisfied with stability, some are disappointed by the lack of prospects, and some simply try to survive and avoid thinking about politics. In villages there is often no sewage system, and people use pit latrines or old outdoor toilets, while a weekly bathhouse replaces a daily shower, something many have come to see as normal. During the spring thaw, roads can be washed out so badly that cars get stuck and even ambulances may take hours to arrive. Older generations remember the past with nostalgia, the youth dream of leaving, and the middle class tries to stay afloat between loans and unstable incomes. It is a country where official grandeur often contrasts with everyday hardships, where people can be sincere and hospitable yet tired of the constant struggle for a normal life, and where reality is far more complex than television stories. A mixture of survival, adaptation, hope, and disappointment that every resident experiences differently depending on where they live, how much they earn, and what they believe about the future of their country. Poverty in many regions is felt not only in statistics but also in the small details of everyday life. In old clothes worn for years, in refrigerators stocked with small portions of food bought until the next paycheck, in apartments where furniture dates back to Soviet times and renovations are postponed indefinitely because utilities and medicine must be paid first. In remote villages, work is often seasonal or absent altogether, so people survive through odd jobs, gathering mushrooms and berries, and selling homegrown vegetables at small local markets. Young families frequently live together with parents in cramped houses, because buying separate housing is almost impossible. In many small towns, there are only a few major employers: a factory, a mine, or a military unit. And if one enterprise cuts staff, the entire town can end up on the edge of survival. Unemployment rises, people leave en masse, or accept any job with minimal pay. Pensioners often count every coin, choosing between buying medicine and proper food, standing in long lines for social assistance and discounts, while some are forced to keep working even at an advanced age. In depressed regions, you can see abandoned houses with broken windows, empty schools due to a lack of children, and shops with high prices because logistics are expensive and competition is almost non-existent. Many people take out loans for household appliances or even basic needs, and debts gradually accumulate, creating a constant sense of financial pressure. In some families, several generations live on one small salary, saving on heating, turning off lights in rooms to reduce bills, and repairing old items instead of buying new ones. Children grow up in environments with limited opportunities, few extracurricular activities, poorly equipped schools, and a lack of modern technology, and many dream from a young age simply of escaping poverty by moving to a big city or abroad. At the same time, big cities have their own form of poverty. People work 10 to 12 hours a day in services or delivery jobs, rent tiny rooms on the outskirts, share apartments with several roommates to save on rent, and despite constant work barely make ends meet. Social support is often insufficient or difficult to obtain due to bureaucracy, and people complain that documents, certificates, and inspections take more time than the assistance itself. In the provinces, there is a widespread feeling of being forgotten. Roads go unrepaired for years, hospitals are closed or merged, and the nearest medical center may be dozens of kilometers away. Because of low incomes, many are forced to work unofficially without contracts or guarantees, making them even more vulnerable to crises and economic shocks. Rising prices for food and utilities are felt especially strongly, because salaries in many regions remain low, forcing families to cut spending even on basic necessities. Despite all this, people try to support one another, exchanging food, helping repair homes, celebrating together, and sharing what little they have, because mutual aid becomes a way of survival. In many stories, poverty does not look like one huge tragedy but rather a slow, exhausting routine where every day is a search for a way to make it through another week, pay the bills, and hold on to hope that life will one day become a little more stable and predictable than it is today. Another reality emerges in the daily commute, when people wake up while it is still dark, head to cold bus stops, and wait for a minibus that may be an hour late, or not come at all, forcing them to hitch a ride, or walk several kilometers. At markets, vendors set up their goods before dawn. Homemade pickles, old tools, clothing from past seasons, and conversations echo between the stalls about prices, news, and survival, as everyone looks for a way to earn just a little more. In the courtyards of panel apartment buildings, rusty swings, old benches, and cars that haven't moved for years sit abandoned, while in the evenings neighbors step outside for fresh air and to discuss daily problems: utility bills, roof repairs, water outages. In small apartments, several generations live together, dividing rooms with curtains or wardrobes to create at least minimal personal space, learning to coexist despite fatigue and constant stress. On weekdays, people work in warehouses, shops, construction sites, or as delivery drivers, tracking expenses on their phones and trying not to spend unnecessarily, because any unexpected breakdown or illness can completely derail the budget. In schools, teachers sometimes buy supplies with their own money, parents contribute for classroom paint, and children grow accustomed to simplicity: old desks, outdated textbooks, and extracurricular activities that survive only through the dedication of a few individuals. Weekends pass without expensive entertainment: walks in the park, trips into nature, home repairs, preparing meals for several days in advance to save time and money. In the courtyards, one can see men repairing cars on the asphalt, children playing soccer between buildings, and elderly people feeding pigeons and sharing news. In hospitals, queues sometimes stretch for hours, so people bring tea in thermoses and a book, preparing for long waits, while private clinics remain an unattainable luxury for many. Sometimes it feels as if life is frozen between past and future. New technologies gradually appear, but alongside them remain old habits and problems that have gone unresolved for years. Yet even in such conditions, people find small joys: Sunday family lunches, watching movies together, fishing at dawn, home celebrations with music and dancing in the kitchen, because these simple moments provide a sense of normalcy and the strength to keep living day by day, quietly persistent, determined to keep their small world in order without fanfare, but with steady resolve. And at the end of it all, life leaves only one feeling: a strange mixture of fatigue and resilience, where people no longer wait for grand changes from above, but cherish what they can control themselves. A warm home, family, a small garden that feeds them through the winter, friends and neighbors ready to help at any moment. They have learned to find joy in the simple things: a morning coffee by the window, children's laughter, a quiet walk through the village or small town where they know every street and every face. Even when roads are broken, electricity is cut off, shops are empty and wages are delayed, life goes on, because people grow accustomed to surviving, adapting, helping one another, and finding meaning in small victories. It is this everyday resilience, this quiet art of living with what you have and making life just a little better day by day, that makes the reality of remote regions, provinces, and small towns in Russia both harsh and genuine, showing that even under severe conditions, people can preserve their humanity, warmth, and hope. Not the loud, political kind, but a quiet, inner hope that allows them to wake up every morning and move forward, even if tomorrow will be hard again, because this is what real life truly means.